Number one.
Miss any part of the show? Every moment of every show is available in podcast form by searching Hans and Scotty on your favorite podcasting platform or online at KSLSports.com. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The man, the legend, it is Ron McBride right here. Coach, how are you?
Hey, Coach.
I'm good. What's going on with you two boys?
Well, we've just been celebrating the monumentous news that we got that they're going to name the Ring of Honor after you. Like, it should be just the Ron McBride Ring of Honor.
Well, it should be Ron McBride Stadium.
Yeah, first and foremost.
Yeah.
And then call it the Ron McBride Ring of Honor. But how about that, Coach?
I tell you what, I was so, humbled.
I bet.
Yeah.
Did Mark call you, or how'd you find out?
Well, so we had an event on Friday night, and he made the announcement at the event and so he had called my wife. Carolyn had called my wife, said, "You better make sure Coach comes on time to this event." And I'm thinking, well, maybe they took my season tickets away from me or something, So they wanted to not make it be too bad, I'm thinking, Vicky said, why do they want to make sure you're on time? I said, well, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know if I ask for too many things or they're going to cut back on being, he's been so good to me, I'm thinking, wow, they're going to say, hey, Coach, we've cut you out from the university. Then all of a sudden he makes that announcement. And,
you got to be a real humble mind to think for 5 seconds.
Thank you.
That Utah would call you in and do anything other than honor you. Like,
hey,
I think you underestimate what you did for their university.
Well, I appreciate what the university has done for me.
Well, I mean, you go and I tell anybody that Hans and I talk about this all the time in where Utah is right now in its athletic program. I'm not even talking about just the football program, the athletic program, making the transition into the Pac-12, then, Big 12, and being one of the big boys of college athletics right now. I mean, I know you're not going to take credit for it, but I think you deserve a lot of credit for that in where Utah is and what they've been able to establish.
Well, when I was here as an assistant coach, I had a vision. I could see that this school could be great.
Yeah. You called that. I mean, you knew that it was a sleeping giant.
Yeah, it was a sleeping giant, and all you had to do was do the right things. And then the idea of being committed over long term rather than a short term. In other words, I had a long-term vision for the football program and how to get it done right, and took some things out of the BYU playbook with the missionaries, took things that from Dick Tomey at Arizona, particularly with the Polynesian people, which I already had coming in, and knowing that you had to have a locker room that was diverse.
Yeah.
And so, and then obviously, in order to survive in the state of Utah, you're going to have a program that's equal or better than BYU, because that's all anybody talked about. And you can't do it by talking about it. You've got to
put the work in.
And the key was, in order for you to be successful, you have to have respect for the teams you have to beat. And I had the ultimate most respect for BYU because of what they've done, how they played football, the commitment of their players. And in order for me to be successful, I had to build a program that was either better than ours or could compete on a basis, and that's the only way you'd survive here.
One of the coolest things I think about you, Coach, is and something that Utah has to look at and the Ring of Honor has to take into consideration. There's been a lot of great head coaches in this country, and you get 3 or 4 years out from their retirement and scandals break. They were doing this and they were underhanded with this, and this is just a disgusting level of this and that. And one of the greatest things about you, Coach, is we've never had a scandal. It's just you're just one of those old throwbacks. You did it the right way. You weren't cheating or being underhanded or being disgusting. You had an amazing family, a great wife. You were an example just through who you are and how you acted. And I actually think that the Ring of Honor has to take that into consideration more than anything, because there's a lot of coaches in your position that would have been disgraced by now.
Well, I don't know about that, but you know, my profession came first, you know, and Vicky took care of the rest of it. And so it's all about the players, the assistant coaches, the university, and all those things, you know, and you just put your heart and soul into it and develop it the right way, and hopefully, you know, the idea was whatever the model you put forward, it would sustain. And obviously when Urban came in, you know, he did a great job with the group, because we left a really good roster here.
Oh, you knew that team. That roster was loaded.
Oh yeah, and then obviously then Kyle got the job, which was great, because you want to keep it in house. And what Kyle has done, he's taken it to another level, and I really like the football team they have this year. You know, I think it could be a special year. And then when Kyle decides to retire, then Morgan, I think, is the next step. And very much a Utah guy, and so it should sustain itself for a long time.
This is something that I've talked to so many of your former players, and some of these guys grew up in some rough areas,
right?
And sometimes they were in situations that weren't great, and they needed somebody to give them a chance.
Yeah.
And I know that you would go to bat with academics and with leadership and be like, once we get this guy on campus and we wrap our arms around him, he's going to be okay. Yeah. We're going to be fine.
Well, I wasn't always the most popular guy with the administration, you know, because, you know, the players weren't perfect.
But the thing is, you weren't just taking guys because they were good at football. You would see something in them that like, okay, not only will he help us win games, but we can help him become a better person. We can help him be the first member of his family to graduate college. I mean, these are opportunities you wanted to give people.
Which was amazing. On Saturday, we had a thing with the All Poly kids up at the practice facility. And the kids, you know, I call them the red guys, you know, because they were the problems. So they all got up and spoke about, you know, why and what has happened to them, and, you know, how much they appreciate what the university and the assistant coaches did for them. And it was really an emotional day, and so much fun, you know.
Hey, did you recruit Alex Smith?
Yeah.
Where did you find him? What was he like? How big of a recruit was he when you were recruiting?
Well, first of all, the principal at his high school was, I think was his uncle or his dad. You know, his dad was involved in it, but so I got a call from somebody there at the high school. They said, you need to take a look at this kid. He's really good. And so we were on two or three other quarterbacks. I sent a guy down, you know, and I said, look, as soon as you, and I called the coach, and I said, hey, we need to watch this kid work out.
Because he looks, right?
Yeah, he looks high school. I said, we need to, and here's the things I want to see. And so the coach took him out and took him through everything that we wanted. And assistant coach called me back, said, "This is our guy. We need to drop everybody else and concentrate on him."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
who was that assistant? Do you remember?
I think it was Danny Henson, if I remember right. I think
good eye by him too. Then,
yeah, but
to be that quick on the call.
Yeah, and so then because in the tailback was
Reggie Bush.
Was Reggie Bush. So all you seen him do on film was pitch the ball to Reggie, so you don't see him. But then once you could see his arm strength, and he's a very smart kid, and his sisters were all very athletic. The dad was very athletic. The mom was athletic. So it kind of, and they're all very smart people. So you could see that, hey, this kid had all of the, he had all the stuff. And so we got on him heavy and offered him right away. And then people came in late. Arizona State came in late. Somebody else came in late, And his uncle, John L. Smith, he
came in late, too, didn't he?
Yeah, he came in late. He was at Louisville at the time. And luckily, we got a commitment out of him, and he stayed with it, and the family stayed with it. And fortunately, we had really two good quarterbacks in the system, and then it was just... we just got, we hit a home run with that deal.
It was right there at the line. Was Eric Weddle yours? Or
no, Weddle was Kyle's. Yeah.
He played because his freshman year was that 04 team.
Yeah. So, Weddle came in after I was gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But I mean, that Alex Smith. I mean, but you look at guys that are now members of the society here in Utah that live here, that you brought from Hawaii or brought from Southern California or wherever. And now that they've got kids and they've got grandkids that are playing football, I mean, and they're only here in Utah because you recruited them back in the day. I mean, seeing the heritage of players that are here because of your recruitment has got to bring a smile to your face.
Yeah, there's a lot of second-generation kids playing now.
Yeah.
And Utah has a ton of them,
the Ellis boys are the perfect example of it.
Well, I tell you what, Luther was just a lucky find because we just sent Brad Childers out in spring recruiting, right? I said, go through Colorado and see what you could see because we hadn't recruited Colorado that much. And Luther was at a 1A high school in Mancos, and he would, hey, I found this guy in Mancos. I said, where's Mancos? It's a ski town, down in, and he said, yeah, this kid is, dad Navy guy, mom was Samoan lady, and he said, hey, this kid is perfect for what we need. And so then there was no hesitation. We got on him, and at that time, just Colorado was recruiting him lightly, thinking that just when they offered him, he'd accept it. Colorado State was on him pretty heavy, but I don't think the head coach at Colorado State at that time was a very warm type guy. So I think that, and Candy Papali, who was the wife of Sam Papali, she was really big in recruiting with the mom. The mom really fell in love with her, and so it all, just all kind of fell in place.
He's had great kids, too. One that's doing an amazing thing now with the Broncos. And how much do you know about Elijah Ellis?
The one that's up there now?
Yep, the linebacker.
Yeah, well, he was up at Layton Christian, and he was hurt when they played Juan Diego, and I know that he can run. I know that he's athletic, and I know that he's made a mark already up there and all those kids. And probably the best player of the four is probably Noah, and Noah has no idea how good he could have been, but he kind of.
You think Noah was better than Jonah?
But Noah, no, when he was 13 or 14, he was a judge at that time, and I started training him on Saturdays, right? And this kid had unbelievable talent, but he was kind of a little shy, didn't talk a lot, but potential, was like, he's 6'4", maybe 280 at that time, and he was only either a freshman or sophomore in high school, but he was, I said, man, if this kid does all the right stuff, he's going to be special. But he kind of just, I think he's working now or whatever. But he was really talented, offensive lineman type kid, and Ron James actually gave him a shot, down in the Arena League, and but the kid, so that kid, if somebody had taken time with him in the league, he'd eventually be a
superstar.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you good to hang out for another segment?
Yeah. I got a driver now.
Oh, good,
okay.
good.
Yeah, so I got my son Mike. Everybody draws straws,
Yeah.
And my wife says to me, why are you doing this to Mike? I said, and they just moved back from Arizona. He and his wife retired. So
Mike's happy to do it, right?
Yeah, Mike's got nothing else going on.
Can he jail feed him?
Yeah.
You get some good meat in it.
So I think it's getting, with them might be getting a little old already, and Mike says, "Where are we going?" He has no, he was gone from here for 30 years, right? And so I said, "We're going to Kenny J's restaurant. Where is it?" I said, "Well, here's the address." I said, "Don't you have one of those things you put in the phone?" And he said, "Yeah, you got one too." I said, "No, dude, you put it in your phone. You're driving." So,
well, you were here early, Coach.
Well, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is your top 60 and 60 watch list as Hans and Scotty get you ready for the start of the 2025 college football season by highlighting the most influential players on their team for the upcoming season. And now,
Get the call, baby! Come on, let's go!
here's today's newest addition to the watch list.
Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is time for your top 60 and 60 watch list. Coach Ron McBride's hanging out with us. As Coach, I don't know how this kid has much eligibility left, but he still has one more year after an injury last year. And Kyle Whittingham expecting some big things out of this guy.
Lavani DeMooney was missed last year. He was injured. He is now back 100% healthy. He is one of the leading tacklers on our team the year prior when he was healthy, and we're expecting him to have a productive year for us.
Lavani DeMooney had a really good year at Utah 2 years ago. Last year was injured and said, hey, let's go run it back for another year. Gets the medical red shirt, and off he goes.
Yeah, he's a good player. Now, Did DeMooney start his career at Utah? Or?
No. Stanford.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Stanford kid.
Yeah, he's Wonga's kid.
Yeah, because there was a party over at Lewis Powell's house, and he was there with his wife, I believe it was, and I said, well, how did what happened at Stanford, and he said, well, I just wanted to come back home. And, there was, of course, at Stanford education, it's hard to give up.
Oh, yeah. And he graduated from Stanford.
Yeah. He
So he got his degree there.
I love how blunt you are, Coach.
Huh?
I love how blunt you are. you just walk right up to anybody. No, what happened? Why'd you leave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because, you don't want to know, but Lavani had a huge impact, and Lavani was supposed to be the staple.
Yeah.
He was projected potential first-team Big 12, and there's all this hope and expectation, and now he's fallen under the radar.
Yeah.
This is under the radar. Lavani DeMooney, Lander Barton, Logan Fano.
Oh, yeah. Well,
That's way – and I'm not going to let that just float under the radar because that's ridiculous.
So the Fano boys, both of them. I mean, the tackle is pretty amazing. You look at him, he looks different than everybody else. And
talking about Spencer.
Yeah. So they're the two offensive tackles at Utah are very good. BYU tried to steal those two guys.
They did?
Oh yeah.
I hadn't heard that.
You got to be kidding.
No, hey.
Coach,
Hey,
that seems like
I don't make these things up.
that seems like you're repeating rumors, Coach.
No way.
You make it seem like BYU maybe had some money to spend that they were throwing out there.
That is correct.
I'm actually surprised that you're not currently on that coaching staff. I would have swore that they'd have you over there by now.
Well, I can tell you this, that every time I go down there, they treat me like royalty.
Well, they should.
Well,
They got two of your boys.
Well,
and Chad and
they got
Gary.
Chad, they got Gary, they got Sione, they got Jay, TJ, the line coach.
Yeah.
Those are all.
these are all your boys.
Well, yeah, they're all my boys. Yeah.
You found TJ, didn't you?
Well, TJ, I worked with TJ for like 3 or 4 years. He was up at Utah State and was kind of a GA up there, and then they elevated him to a full-time guy, and then he kind of followed Gary, to Wisconsin, and that's really when I started, spending a lot of time with him. Wisconsin, Oregon State, and he technically, really sound at particularly at combos and development and so he really did. And then Josh Oglesby was the other guy who's at Arizona now that was kind of the same thing. He was like a GA at Wisconsin for TJ. So I worked with Josh, with TJ, and we just kind of, wherever they went, I just kind of followed.
Hey, I'm asking you to speculate a little bit here, but McKay Hillstead, you saw him at Utah State. You probably
Right.
saw him at in the high school
I
levels.
did.
Do you think he can, if he's the guy, that he can handle Big 12 football? Because I know the moxie, the arm strength is all there. It's just the size that makes me worried.
Yeah, well, so when I was down there was only two quarterbacks. It was Hillstead and
Retzlaff.
Retzlaff, yeah. And obviously Retzlaff was something special because he knew the offense, was confident. He made it look easy. He's out there and they're having some 11-on-11 stuff, and this kid's making everything. He just looked comfortable. He knew where the ball was going. He got it out quickly, And then when it became Hillstead's turn, he was a little more reluctant to make certain throws, a little more reluctant because he probably didn't know the offense well enough. So it's hard.
So he'd go to his feet.
Yeah. So, and then I guess they have a quarterback from Stanford, correct?
The Bachmeier.
Brockmeyer.
Bear Bachmeier.
Yeah, who played a lot last year, right, at Stanford. So that's what you got. But they, I think the offensive line is good.
How much do you worry about a quarterback's size, Coach?
Well, I think you worry about him getting banged around and how durable he's going to be, and I think it depends on the kid. I know that Hillstead is a very confident kid, himself. Yeah,
and should be.
Yeah, well, you got
a lot of great tools.
Yeah, to play that position, you got to. But is he in the same market as the other kid? No, because the other kid has proven it, and he's weathered it, and he's really good.
One thing that really caught my eye when I was at spring ball was just the size of Hillstead.
Yeah.
Because I think it might be the first time in person in pads behind center that I've seen him. And I was like, wow, it's a significant, because Retzlaff's 6'1",
Yeah.
6'1"-ish, 6'2"-ish. Hillstead's 5'10"-ish.
Yeah. I mean, they'll list him at 6, but he's 5'10".
He's 5'10".
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
And ish.
Yeah.
And
Different looking bodies.
But then you watch him take the snap and you watch him get to position. He's to position fast. He's got really good touch off his hand. He's actually got really good accuracy when he sits and touches. But one thing that I hope that he doesn't that he can fully trust the game plan and know what the game plan is, and it doesn't all resort to, I got to go. I got to go. I got to scramble. I got to move.
First guy's covered. All right, I'm taking off.
I got to move. And it's like, no, don't scramble, because there's players in the Big 12 that'll kill you.
Yeah.
And so you got to know the offensive move, because and it's different. When Jake Retzlaff's taking a hit at 6'1", it's different than taking a hit at 5'10", 180.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then when Hillstead was at Utah State, I don't think Anderson, who was the coach, right?
Yeah, Blake,
yeah. I don't think the kid played a lot, but I don't think that my information, he wasn't in love with the kid.
Oh, he was in love with Hillstead.
Okay.
It was the Legat kid.
Legat, Legat. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember it was one of those guys that played a lot, but he was not. It wasn't his cup of tea. So whatever the kid was doing.
Yeah. In fact,
you know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're up there all the time.
You excited for Football Fridays, Coach?
Yeah.
We're only a few weeks away.
When are we starting?
that game week, I believe.
Okay.
So August, whatever that Wednesday is before the first game of the year.
Okay.
You going to invite Alema back, because it's your show?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you want Alema back, if you want us to go a different direction, that's your call.
I'm not throwing a limb under the bus.
Have you given Lloyd your invoice yet? Because your invoice goes to Lloyd now, not Scott.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, he was good because he paid me before Christmas.
Oh, wow!
Yeah, and so
I got you, Coach.
I used all that money for Christmas presents.
See,
right?
I always thought it was like as long as we can get you in before tax day, then we're having a good time.
Wow! You use it for Christmas presents. You could use that money to buy a new house, Coach. That's.
Hey, no comment.
That's all I want to know. Did Lloyd pay you as much as Scotty paid you? Because Scotty was generous.
Yeah. Well,
Lloyd's a little bit more like, every penny's got to be accounted.
Well, it was let's put it this way. It monumentally went down.
Okay.
But
it was on time.
But it's timing.
but I have so much fun with the show that I'd probably pay you to do it.
Yeah.
Coach, we would.
But don't tell.
We won't tell Lloyd.
Don't tell Lloyd, because then Lloyd will say, "Yeah, good, Mac. We'll just do it this way."
So Lloyd will give you an invoice at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'll pay Lloyd. I probably would pay Lloyd. Yeah.
Well, we love having you, Coach. Looking forward to another Football Fridays coming up. You and Alema Harrington, and we'll be kicking this thing off soon. You said an NFL game the end of this month.
Yeah, a preseason game will be July 31st, so we will have football by the end of the month.
NFL, July 31st.
Hey, have you talked to Bronco yet?
No, but I've talked to guys that are working for him and they're all, they're pretty quiet up there.
Very quiet.
Yeah, I said, "What are you guys doing up there?" Shh. Bronco's gonna. If they talk, he'll kick them out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they wouldn't let me go up to spring.
Yeah. So, but Bronco's a really good football coach.
Yeah, he is.
And he used to always make me laugh because he's kind of got a dry sense of humor, right?
Yeah.
So,
by the way, I just got a text from Will Snowden, our college football insider, and he said, first of all, tell Coach Mack he's the greatest of all time. And he said, second of all, Hillstead has an insanely quick release. Will Snowden.
Oh, yeah.
Loves some McKay Hillstead.
Yes.
And he has been a great spokesperson for McKay.
Yep.
And I know he's helped him in a lot of categories. But there's not a bigger believer of McKay Hillstead than Will Snowden.
Correct.
So when McKay blows up, Will is going to be the most accurate and loved insider in college football Utah sports history.
Well, and I'm not saying this just because Will's listening, and I think Will's one of the best dudes on the planet. But I think McKay Hillstead needs to be your Week 1 starter at BYU, and I would let that horse run. Just let him go.
Okay.
Just let him go.
Well,
because
I think you called him for
because I loved what I saw at Utah State. The injury slowed him down a little bit, but that offensive line was a sieve, to say the least, at Utah State that year he was playing. And I tweeted out a link to it. Go watch that James Madison game that he started in, and he had some true freshman throws in there. He threw 3 interceptions and one late that ended the game. But there were some other throws that were just like, holy smokes, this kid is unreal. And that was against an 11-2 James Madison team. That was a really good team they were playing, and he put on a show that day as a true freshman. Coach, you're the best.
Well, hey.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So I want to give a shout-out to 4 or 5 of our people that are having struggles now.
Absolutely.
And so the snake, Mike Kinsella, passed away maybe 2 weeks ago of cancer, and now Frank Layden is struggling. He's at a assisted living up in Bonneville, and so he's struggling. John Apsey, the Bear,
who we all love,
who has cancer also, and I know that he's struggling.
We love you, John. We love you, John. We love you, Frank.
Yeah, exactly. And then Randy Gomez played quarterback for us. He's has 4th-degree cancer also back in. So, and then John Colosimo, the former head coach at Juan Diego, has won like 8 championships. He's struggling, but it's so sad because all these people have been so wonderful. You think about the snake, he was gracious from day one, a great player for us, and owned a Leprechaun for 30 years. And then think about Frank. Frank never turned down anything.
Never.
No. And Frank and Lavelle were similar in a lot of ways.
Oh, yeah.
And that they did everything for the community. They were givers, not takers. And
I love Frank. You just love being around him.
Oh yeah, Frank.
He's in assisted living, you said?
Yeah, he's up in Bonneville and he's kind of like they put a new one so he had this breathing problem, and they put this other thing in there, some kind of stent, and then you got to learn to talk again. You got to learn how to, and it's just and then the thing with John, it was just pretty sudden, with
Frank is 93.
Yeah,
almost 94.
Yeah, so his, and then John was going through his chemo, and Randy went to Houston, and then he went to Minnesota, they give him it put everybody on a trial drug or whatever, and it's just,
it's a tough time.
I'll tell you what, it is a tough time because you love all those guys and what they've done.
First time I met Frank Layden, he came in studio. I was doing a show with Gordy Chiesa.
Okay.
And Frank came in studio, and he sizes me up. He looks at me. He's like, "You're a large fella. I've got some extra suits. Would you?"
So was this post surgery? Was this post weight drop
for Frank? Yeah. And so he's like, "I'll run you by some of my old suits. They might fit you."
He's so classic.
Oh, I know.
Well, the last time we did a show with them was about 2 years ago.
At that Utah Hall of Fame.
With you.
Yeah.
And Coach Stallone's wife.
Yeah.
And we all met, and Frank gets out of his car, and he said, "One thing you boys don't ever want to get is shingles."
Well, he had shingles twice.
And he was walking all ginger. And he said, "Promise me, you boys, promise me. You don't ever get shingles."
Well,
we're like, "Yeah, we promise, Coach."
He didn't like shingles.
No, I know.
He said, And and shingles just all of a sudden arrives. You don't know it's going to come, and then all of a sudden
it's like that aunt and uncle that all of a sudden they just showed up.
And it knocks the door down and eats all your food.
Hey, what's this stuff I got on my face, or on my head or whatever? And it's kind of painful. And then you go to your doctor. He says, "Oh, you got shingles." I said, "What's that?"
Oh, it's too late.
It's too late.
That's hell on wheels is what that is.
Oh, that stuff's painful.
Well, send a love out to all those guys. And Coach, thanks for coming in.
Appreciate it.
Hey, have a nice day.
You too, Coach.
Right.
Whole World News next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Go! It's time to span the globe for the hard-hitting news you care about. Well, not really. But hey, at least we found it interesting. This is Whole World News on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
We've got the whole world in our hands.
You got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands. We've got the whole world in our hands.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time for another edition of Whole World News. By the way, Bill Armstrong will join us coming up at 2:30. Give us the latest on the acquisitions of the Utah Mammoth.
Bill's coming on?
Bill at 2:30.
He's so good to us.
I know. We don't deserve Bill.
We do not deserve. This state doesn't deserve Bill.
No.
He's been busy.
Yes.
Yet he's still going to take time to jump on.
Absolutely incredible.
Taking just a little bit of a different turn here for Whole World News, only because I think it's a significant story. And the judgment has come down for Sean Diddy Combs.
Oh, did it?
It did. Sean Diddy Combs' final verdict is federal criminal trial. He is not guilty on 3 of the main 5 counts. They acquitted him of racketeering, sex trafficking, and of Cassie and the sex trafficking of Jane. He's only been convicted on 2 of the 5. And that is transportation for the purpose of prostitution. And now he faces a maximum sentence of 10 years.
Which will be
none. And they're asking for him to be set free.
Yeah.
So that he can now move on and go about his world.
Wow.
About an hour after jurors arrived, went straight into the jury room. Foreman sent a note out to the judge telling him that they'd reached the unanimous verdict. Again, found guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution and not guilty on racketeering or sex trafficking charges. Those were the major ones. I'm shocked. I know, we haven't talked a lot about Sean Diddy, and usually our Whole World News is a little bit more joyous and enlightening.
A little bit lighthearted, yeah.
This one actually floored me this morning.
I was a little surprised because once the feds get involved.
Well, I thought he was going underneath the prison.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I thought every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the rap game or in the music game that had any association with him would make sure that he would go down and go away and take all of his notes and stories and pictures and videos and bottles of baby lotion with him.
Oh.
It's like 1,000 bottles of baby lotion.
I know. Hey, what did we learn today, kids? When you have good representation, things can usually go your way.
My goodness. Boy, we see it too often. And I don't think he'll serve a day in prison.
I don't think so either. I don't think so. Not one bit. All right, Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.